Afternoon. I hope everyone is really well. And look, it's time of the year that we start to think about assessment schedules, assessment tasks for next term. And with that in mind, as a community family studies teacher, we have the IRP to think about. Now, the IRP is a mandatory part of our community family studies journey. And it's really important that we are set up for success right from the very beginning with this assessment task. So we know that A, it's mandatory. B, it is worth up to 20% of our internal school assessment for our students, for our U12. So it's always a great opportunity at this time of the year to reflect and think about what we're currently doing and what we could do better possibly with our independent research project. So I'd love to let me know what you currently do. Are you doing a student-centered IRP or a teacher-facilitated IRP? So just to clarify the two of them, a student-centered IRP is having a number of different IRPs happening in your class where the students get to choose what their focus is. So they kind of choose the topic, they choose how they approach it, they might choose from the beginning how they're actually going to conduct their research. That's a student-centered IRP. So they look very different to a teacher-facilitated IRP. A teacher-facilitated IRP is facilitated by you as the CAFS teacher, as the teacher kind of going through this process with your class, rather than having like maybe 6 different IRPs or 12 different IRPs in your class, or even 24 different IRPs in your class. You actually get to facilitate this process with your students. So we're going to be talking today about what you can do to change the process in actually doing this research. So back in the day when I first started teaching CAFS, back in 2004, showing my age here, I think my first year I might have had 16 or 17 students, and I would teach the content on a Friday, would go to the library, and then in the library, my students would actually do their research around their chosen topic for the IRP. Many of those topics were focused on lots of general kind of CAFS connected, maybe not so much concepts. So things like, drink driving, teenage pregnancy, a lot of kind of ethical considerations, lots of links to PDHPE type topics, but not really related to community family studies, because that's kind of what everyone else was doing across New South Wales. All of the kids had topics that kind of linked to CAFS, but they really didn't from the outset. So on a Friday, I would get my students to come into the library, and I would have the 16 or 17 of them in there going off, getting books, because in 2004 we had books and we had journals in the library. We might have had some newspapers, that type of thing. And my students would conduct their research on a Friday. So it did start out, I reckon, for probably the first 2 weeks, my students trying to work out what they were going to focus on. So that was part of the issue, that they were kind of focusing on like what they were going to actually do for their topic before they actually started their research. So that wasted a lot of time in the initial days. And you'd kind of do lots of checks. The kids would do a proposal, they'd do their plan. And then you would kind of come to recognize that some of the students were struggling in actually coming up with a topic, coming up with a focus, coming up with their hypothesis, coming up with their question. Kind of by week 2, you're like, all right, guys, you better get started because you're going to be way behind everybody else. So I think back in the early days, many of us across New South Wales were doing a student-centered IRP and not a teacher-facilitated IRP. And look, the best thing that I ever did was change that. And it kind of changed around the time of the amended syllabus in 2013, because there was that teacher note around the student-centered IRP or a teacher-facilitated IRP. Now, if you followed me since I started the Learning Network, you may have seen that I have a whole course that teaches CAFS teachers on how to actually facilitate the IRP process, the product as well, and what the kids actually do from the outset. So it's really important that we start to have a think about what this might look like. So today we're going to talk about the process. Throughout the week, we're going to talk about the product, and we're also going to talk about some of our HSC results around research methodology. So look, the process for research needs to be really embedded in what you do. The students really taking maybe a more of a team approach, the way they do their research, rather than them doing it in silo. When I had that first cohort through back in 2005, our classes looked very different. It was very disjointed. Like I said, Fridays were our library day. I had kids not really knowing what they did. Fast track to, it might have been 2014 or 15 when we actually facilitated this IRP, rather than the kids doing it alone. It looked like me actually facilitating that process, me being the head researcher in our class, and then splitting the students up into research teams. And essentially that's what I take you through in strategic approaches to the IRP. I show you the process with templates and resources to help facilitate this process for the kids, so it makes it so much more streamlined. Because at the end of the day, the assessment task is worth up to 20%. So you can have it as a 10% task, a 15% task, or a 20% task. So gone are the days where we have multiple student-centered IRPs in our class, and you as a teacher kind of going, I've got no idea really where everyone's up to. I'm trying to do a bit of everything. I'm trying to check on people. I'm trying to make sure people are on track. Whereas this way, in a teacher-facilitated IRP, you get to actually be the head researcher in your class and facilitate the process with the kids. And so it will look like you working out your research teams. If you have 6 kids, maybe going in pairs or 2 groups of 3, possibly, and kind of divvying up the tasks, like a research team would do actually in the field of research, working out strengths and weaknesses of the group, and then assigning them to particular parts of it. So instead of the kids having to to come up with their hypothesis by themselves, as a class, as a research team, you actually get to come up with your hypothesis or your focus question as a class. It then has greater links to the syllabus because you can really facilitate what's happening with that chosen topic. Now, through strategic approaches to the IRP, my course to help teachers facilitate the IRP successfully, I show you what you can do to really navigate that first part about, okay, what are we going to focus on? And I give you lots of choices in the course, whether you want to focus and connect it to parenting and caring, connect it to groups in context, connect it to the case study in the option, connect it to another part of the option, or maybe pinpoint parts that kind of connect to maybe different sections of the syllabus. Just really making sure that process is a lot more streamlined, rather than the kids having 17 different topics that don't really relate to CAFS. You actually get to facilitate this process in a really streamlined way. So every step of the way, you're actually making it really purposeful, really strategic in the choices that the kids are making within their research. So that first initial step of coming up with a hypothesis or a question, and then going, okay, well, we kind of need to gather some data for our literature review, maybe getting our better students who are really great at research or really good at synthesizing research, maybe giving them the task of actually creating the literature review. And as I'll talk about through the week, the kids don't have to do all parts of the process or the product. So you actually have a lot of flexibility with how you facilitate this IRP with your CAFS class. And as I've mentioned, I have showed 290 of you across New South Wales on how to actually facilitate this process, because look, it's one of those things that you can, it can be quite stressful for students if they're just doing it alone, because back in the day, it used to look like this big, bound product that was, 3,000 words, because it came from the life management syllabus, and the kids had to do every single part of it. Now, thank goodness, the Board of Studies realised, and now NESA realised, that it was probably, it's not a PIP, it's not the PIP, it's a research project. And it's a research project that now sits within our course, and we assess it with up to 20% weighting. So it is a very small part of our course. It's not like a 30% task or an exam or anything. It is just part of, our process, part of our CAFS course. So I'd love for you to think about how you're going to run it this year in term 4, or maybe into term 1 next year with your CAFS crew, because if you start to think more strategically, it's going to change the way you approach everything with your CAFS crew in that IRP, but also with research methodology. And I've shown lots of teachers across New South Wales how to do this. And the feedback from everyone has been overwhelmingly positive. Things like, you've changed my career, you've changed my approach to things. I feel a lot more supported. You've protected my time, my energy and well-being. No longer do I have to chase my tail with content and the process and the product, but we're really streamlining all of that. We're stripping it right back and going, okay, well, it's worth up to 20%. Let's facilitate the process. Let's work together on this actual research product. So please let me know along the week if you have any questions about what it might look like. But I know there's still teachers out there who their kids are doing it alone. But if you can look at it from a different perspective, where you can go, okay, well, let's be a bit more strategic about how we do it. Let's be really intentional around our choices with our topics. So our topics don't just kind of link to CAFS, but are specific to our course and really connect to our course content. So when I first did this, we linked it to our option and we linked it to our case study. So one piece of technology, we linked it to, I think in the early days, maybe smartphones. And then I changed and altered it a little bit to portable devices. And then we actually had part of our question, or maybe the next year I might have done a hypothesis. We actually created our hypothesis or our question based on dot points from the syllabus. So when our kids were actually doing their research, when they're actually conducting primary and secondary research, they could learn about our option at the same time. Now, teachers across New South Wales have done something similar to that. Some teachers have linked it to our category B groups for groups in context. Some teachers have linked it to multiple expectations or multiple commitments to both parenting and then individuals and work. So there's lots of different options that we have within this product and process to really make it meaningful, make it purposeful for our kids. So every single thing that we do along this process has a really big impact on not just our kids' stress levels, but also they're actually learning the content as they go along. And I'll show you what that looks like throughout the week so it can be more strategic. So if you're looking for a better way, a more streamlined approach, something that's going to save you so much time, but also just generate a lot less stress throughout the actual learning part of it, but also through the process and then the product, I would love for you to check out strategic approaches for the IRP. If you'd love to know more, this Thursday I'm hosting a webinar for you. The learnet.com/IRP webinar is where you can go to sign up, hear a little bit more about what this new process or teacher-facilitated IRP might look like. And if you've heard us talk about it, or if you've heard me talk about it for the last 4 years, this is my 4th time running this course. And I know it has had such a significant impact on CAFS teachers all across New South Wales. So I'm talking 290 of you taking this course and really having all the tips and strategies and templates to help make your life so much easier, but also for the kids to really protect, their level of energy and their stress levels, in their final year of school. So again, if you would like to check out our IRP course, the learnet.com/IRP is where you can grab your access to this course, join over 290 teachers all across New South Wales who have also taken the course. And if you're looking for a way to really streamline your approach, make it really, really practical within research methodology, because many of our kids really do struggle with that, I would love for you to check out. So the learnet.com/IRP is where you can check out the course. But if you want to come along on Thursday night, I'll be diving deeper in this. So the webinar is the learnet.com/IRP webinar. So I'll be going live every day this week at 3:30 for bite-sized PL with Kell. Bit of a tongue twister, but I'd love to answer any of your questions that you do have around what the IRP might look like in HSC, either next term or in the coming terms next year as you actually start to create your assessment schedules. But in the meantime, please let me know if you have any questions. Send me a DM over on Instagram or Facebook, or send us an email. I can't wait to share with you what this strategic approach to the IRP looks like and how you can implement this straight away to save your time, but also your energy and your wellbeing. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you soon.